Hey cozypreneurs, make yourself a cup of tea and get comfy because today we are diving in to the 5 books I think every entrepreneur should read if you want to grow your small business while also living a more slow, intentional, and magical life. And you already know I saved the best book for last that completely transformed not just my approach, but also some of the offers inside of my business. But before we can dive into building a more spacious business model, we need to chat about the problem that probably brought you here: burnout. Behind every Google search for slow living, soft ambition, or cozypreneur is somebody who is overwhelmed, stretched too thin, and probably nearing burnout. I've been there too, and actually quit my first business because of it. But if I would have had this book, things might have been different. Because Burnout, the secret to unlocking the stress cycle, guides you step by step through identifying, preventing, and even coping with the stress in your life, so that way it doesn't become a cycle that eventually leads to burnout. But what I love most about it is that it shows the larger picture of what's causing the burnout in your life. Because it's not just you, it's a systematic problem that is running rampant in society and actually ties back to some political and economic things, but we're not going to dive into all of that. I will let you read it all inside of this book. But knowing how some of those things affect your well-being helps you remove some of the blame from yourself, but doesn't disempower you from making some positive changes despite everything going on collectively. For example, one of the simple ways to start relieving stress in your own life, and what she talks about in this book as the most effective way to complete the stress cycle, is physical movement. Whether that's walking, yoga, weightlifting, which is one of my favorites, or even just having a mini dance party in your office, it can help your body move through the stress so that way it doesn't lead to burnout long term. And just to give you another little snippet of what you can expect in this book, here's one of my favorite quotes that I dog-eared and underlined. It's true that rest makes us more productive. And ultimately, if that's the argument that convinces your boss to give you more flexibility, awesome. But I think rest matters not because it makes you more productive, but because it makes you happier and healthier, less grumpy and more creative. We think rest matters because you matter. You're not here to be productive. You're here to be you, to engage with your something larger, to move through the world with confidence and joy. And to do that, you require rest. I don't know about you, but I definitely need to hear that quite frequently in my own business. And I have a feeling you're gonna need to hear all the other good snippets and science and tips inside of Burnout, the secret to unlocking the stress cycle. But before you head to Amazon and Barnes & Noble and pay full price for it, I would highly recommend checking out your local thrift store, because I made the mistake of paying full price for this and then literally 2 days later seeing it for $3 at my Goodwill. So learn from my mistake, see if you can get this secondhand before you pay full price. But if you don't have a thrift store near you, I have some good news, because today's video sponsor is thriftbooks.com, which I have been using for years to buy all of my books because I love, one, saving money, but also saving the planet. They resell or recycle thousands of books every single day, and even better, they have a free books rewards program. Every $30 you spend, you get another one of these for free. So scan the QR code to start earning your first free book, or click the link down in the description and grab a couple of the ones on your TBR list, which this next cozypreneur book suggestion you're definitely gonna wanna read. Slow Productivity: The Art of Accomplishment Without Burnout by Cal Newport. As you can see, I have quite a few dog ears in this book because there were so many good nuggets of information I didn't want to forget. And one of the best ones that absolutely blew my mind and actually inspired an Instagram post, which, by the way, if you don't follow me over there, you definitely should if you want to see more slow living and cozy business content. But that quote comes from page 16, where he's talking about the original definition of the word productivity. Early uses of the term can be traced back to agriculture, where its meaning is straightforward. For a farmer, the productivity of a given parcel of land can be measured by the amount of food the land produces. He then goes on to talk about how in the Industrial Revolution, they used the word productivity to measure how many products were coming off the assembly line, but it doesn't really work for those of us who are in the knowledge sector, aka anyone doing work that is mental or creative. Because we can't clearly see how our input creates an output every single day. So here we are judging how productive we are when really that term was never for us. And instead we should focus on how creative or innovative we are every single day. What I also really love about this book is he gives 3 simple ways to start practicing slow productivity in your career or in your business. I don't know about you, but when books give a million tips, I tend to forget all of them and they go straight out of my head. So I love how straightforward and simplistic he makes this. The first way to start practicing slow productivity is to do fewer things. Literally write less on your to-do list so that way you're not always operating at full capacity. Because then when something happens that you need to fix, you're already fully booked for the day and now you're stressed and overwhelmed and working into the night. So to start out, do fewer things. Second is to work at a natural pace. How often through your day are you typing at 110% speed and feel your cortisol spiking? There is no reason to be going that fast. So slow it down a bit, take a deep breath in, and remember, it's okay to work at a natural pace. And third is to obsess over the quality. Some of the biggest brands and most successful businesses are luxury ones that really focus on those little tiny details that make you appreciate the product so much more. And the same is true for your business. Instead of focusing on how much you can create, focus on how good of a product you can create. Now, I don't want to spoil too much more of this amazing book because it is definitely one that I would recommend to any client that I work with. So let's dive into the next cozypreneur suggestion that might sound a little hypocritical and confusing to be on this list, but I promise it'll make sense. Atomic Habits by James Clear. Now, I don't have a physical copy of this book to show you because I actually listened to it over on Spotify, which I would highly recommend upgrading to their premium membership. This is not sponsored, but I am happy to pay that business expense every month to get the ad-free music, but more so to get all of the audiobooks that I could listen to. So definitely consider looking into it. But the reason I included this read on a list of books for cozypreneurs, even though it doesn't have anything directly to do with slow living or burnout, is because your habits make up your routines, which make up your life. Or as James Clear says it in the book, habits are like atoms of our lives. Each one is a fundamental unit that contributes to your overall improvement. Or as I always like to affirm, when you are nourished physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, your business will flourish financially. So if you can learn some simple ways to shift the habits that are no longer serving you, whether it's personally or professionally, it is going to benefit your business. And he gives so many helpful hacks that are an absolute game changer, especially if you feel like you have this one habit that you just can't break no matter how hard you try. There's actually psychology and science to it that he teaches you inside of the book. One of the best tips though that I literally use all the time and share with all of my clients is called habit stacking, where you plan to do your new habit right after another part of your routine that you do every single day. So for example, if you wanted to get into the habit of going for a walk every single morning, you could stack that right after brushing your teeth. So you can make a plan that once you rinse your toothbrush and put it back in the holder, you then go grab your sneakers, lace them up, and walk out the door. You are essentially stacking that new habit on one that you already have because it acts like a mental trigger and makes it easier for you to just do it naturally as part of your everyday routine. And you can apply this to any area of your life or business, which is why I find this book so helpful and such a fundamental one for any entrepreneur. Like I said, I use this one hack personally all the time and share it with all of my clients because it is so simple and so effective. And speaking of things that I share with my clients, this next book is one that I have recommended to every single one of them over the past 5 years, and I've also sent some of them as a Christmas gift. Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Yes, the same author that wrote Eat, Pray, Love also wrote the Bible on creativity, which I think is one of the biggest assets that any entrepreneur can have. Whether you are an artist, a writer, a coach, a healer, even an accountant or a bookkeeper, you are using creativity every single day to market your business, solve different problems you may face, even communicate with your clients. I believe it is a core skill that the more you develop, the more success you're gonna find. What I love about this book is that she breaks down creativity into 6 simple steps: courage, enchantment, permission, persistence, trust, and divinity. Yes, it gets a little bit woo-woo, but she gives so many practical tips that are gonna help you boost your creativity, but also deal with rejection, the fear of being seen, creative block, so many different things that I know come up for you all the time in your business. But what stuck out to me the most in this book and why I included it on a list of must-reads for cozypreneurs is this concept that Elizabeth Gilbert presents when it comes to creativity. She says that it's a swirling idea floating around us and that we have to slow down in order to capture it and therefore create it. On page 36, she says it like this: But sometimes, rarely but magnificently, there comes a day when you're open and relaxed enough to actually receive something. Your defenses might slacken and your anxieties might ease, and then magic can slip through. I don't know about you, but my best ideas never come when I'm sitting behind my desk trying to force it. It always happens when I'm out in the garden or taking a shower or even driving to go do errands. It's because your mind finally relaxes and your alpha brainwaves, aka where creativity lives, finally turns on. So this book is your permission slip to slow down so that way those creative ideas can find you. And it's also your constant reminder that rest is an income producing activity, which actually takes us perfectly into our last book, which is my absolute favorite, and I know you're going to be obsessed with as well. Rest, Why You Get More Done by Working Less. I could create an entire video about how much I love this book and how deeply insightful it was for me when I began my slow living journey while also being an entrepreneur. And it actually inspired this blog, which I will leave linked down below if you want to do a deep dive into this book. But the main takeaways is all the studies and research that he shares that when we rest, we are actually more productive. Not to bore you with all of the stats or spoil the book, but one of the bits of research that absolutely blew my mind was that at Microsoft in Japan, they switched to a 4-day work week and actually saw a 40% increase in productivity by working 1 day less. And it gives tons of real life examples as well from some of the greatest minds our world has ever seen, such as Charles Dickens, Winston Churchill, and even Charles Darwin. Apparently, all three of those men prioritize daily walks and daily naps because it helps split up the long, monotonous workday and also get the creative juices flowing again. So if you ever feel guilty for relaxing or feel like you just can't take a day off, you need to read this book because it is going to give your brain proof of how necessary it is for you to rest if you want to see long-term success in your business. And I'll leave you with this quote that altered my brain chemistry and also my business approach in the best way. If work is yourself, when you cease to work, you cease to exist. And I don't know about you, but I am more than just my business. I am more than just the products I create or the posts that I share. I am a multifaceted human with so many other passions and interests and loves in this life far outside of my career. And I know how hard it can be as an entrepreneur not to identify with your business and see it as a separate entity, but it was one of the healthiest things I ever did for myself and for my mental health. And this book was the start of that. So if you don't get any other book that I recommend on this list, please at least listen to this one, buy it secondhand, rent it from the library, get your hands on it because it will completely change your relationship to rest and also your business. And just in case nobody told you today, you are more than your work. More than your products, more than your offers, more than your business, more than your career. You are a human being, not a human doing. And I hope this video and those book suggestions help you find that work-life balance you are craving. And I'd love to hear down in the comments which one you're going to read first, or if there are any other suggestions you think I should mention. Maybe we could do a part 2 to this video if you like. But until then, stay cozy and stay magical.